So who here wants to go into healthcare? Almost most of you. And who wants to go into pharmacy? Okay, none of you. Well, not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet. You want to go into medical school. Is that mostly what we have? Okay. Well, I always tell med students you should get a pharmacy tech license and work in a pharmacy. Because in medical school, and Dr. Lota can tell you, that you get a lot of drug knowledge, but not as much as you get in pharmacy school, because that's all we study. So, if you work in a pharmacy, you learn some drug names, and when you go to medical school, you've heard of the drugs, you know what they look like, and it's a really great segue into medical school. So, my name is Dr. Shaw. I grew up right here in the Midwest, and I'm currently the pharmacy manager at a small independent pharmacy called ASAP. It actually stands for American Service and Product. I started there about almost 6 years ago. And then I do a bunch of other things, but I'm gonna kind of take you on a journey of when I was your age and then how I made it to where I am today. Okay, so picking out a profession. Everybody has what they want to be, what they want to do, but sometimes you haven't worked in that area. You haven't talked to anyone in that field. So how do you know that that's really what you want to do? So one thing I didn't do was I didn't talk to anyone who was a pharmacist. My uncle was a pharmacist, and that was it. But I didn't really talk to him about it. So when I was your age, I wanted to go to medical school. I wanted to be a psychiatrist or a pediatrician because I love kids, but I thought psychiatry was cool too. And then I thought about it, and I thought, I'm gonna eventually get married, have kids, and I don't wanna work full time, so maybe pharmacy is better, because then I could go part time. So these are the thoughts that were going through my head as I was in high school. But life, takes you in different directions. So as you'll hear, everything kind of didn't go the way I originally, pictured. And you should always have a backup plan. So my path was going to pharmacy school. So I went to University of Illinois in Chicago for my undergrad. For pharmacy school, undergrad is anywhere from 2 years to a bachelor's degree. Depends on where you want to go to pharmacy school. Pharmacy school itself is 4 years. And so I went to UIC, I did my 2-year undergrad, and I applied to 6 colleges of pharmacy. So back in the year that I was applying, it was really hard to get in. So I needed a backup degree or major. What was I gonna do if I didn't get into pharmacy school? And so I applied to med tech school. I did get into that program. But out of the pharmacy schools I applied to, I only got into 2. And I was rejected by 2 and waitlisted at 2. So I was gonna go to Butler University in Indiana. I got accepted to the 2. My dad said, well, let's pay the deposit for both schools. Now, my parents were hardworking, middle class, with multiple kids who they had to send through college. So I'm like, Dad, we don't need to pay for both schools. I'm going to Butler. Let's just pay the deposit for one. Well, when I talked to the dean 1 week before school started, he tells me, you didn't finish the prereqs, so you have to do an extra year of college. So do you want to do that before you go start pharmacy school? Well, I had done the prereqs. I didn't realize that I didn't have it for Butler. So, because my dad made us pay for both, I ended up in Boston a week before school started. So it was, okay, I don't know where I'm gonna live, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I had an uncle there. I trained into the city, and that was the start of my pharmacy career. So sometimes you think you're doing one thing, you end up in a completely different direction. And that's okay, because I went to school in Boston, a lot of different things happened, and they were positive. So you just don't know where your journey will take you, okay? So instead of being really upset about not being able to go to Butler, you just took a different path. And then I wanted to do my doctor of pharmacy, and so I went to school right here at Midwestern, which also has a medical school and other healthcare fields there as well. Any questions so far? Okay, whenever you guys have a question, feel free to raise your hand and just ask it, okay? Yes.
So how was it going? Had you ever been to Boston before?
So I have family in Boston,
Yes.
luckily.
Yeah.
So I have been to Boston, but
Okay.
like they don't live in the city.
Yes.
So we did touristy things outside of the city. But yeah, no, I didn't have too much familiarity with the city. And you know, being a college student living away from home, there's a lot of different things to think about. So I had to find a roommate really fast of where I was gonna stay because I couldn't commute so long from the suburbs for the whole school year, so, yeah. And I kind of threw it on my uncle and aunt last minute that, hey, I think I'm gonna be staying with you for a tiny bit, so. So I went to pharmacy school, when I graduated from school in Boston, in my head, I'm working retail pharmacy. So can anyone tell me what retail pharmacy is? Where would I be working? Well, sorry. It's your regular grocery store and drugstore pharmacy. So Walgreens, Osco, Mariano's has a pharmacy, Target has a CVS. So those pharmacies where you go, how many of you have been on a prescription medication? Yeah, you know, you get a cold or you get the flu, you might need an antibiotic. So most of us have been on some type of medication. So that was in my head, I was gonna work retail pharmacy. I like people, I like helping people, and so what better place? So I worked at Arbor Drugs in Michigan, and then I did my PharmD, my Doctor of Pharmacy degree here, so I moved to Illinois, and that's when I started working at Dominic's and switched to Kmart and went back to Dominic's. Okay, so that's it. That should be kind of the end of my story. For the next, 25, 30, 40, 50 years, I was gonna work there. So I think it's really important to meet people, talk to people. And those tiny little times that you speak to people can completely change the trajectory of your life. So I won a free tax consult certificate. I was very young, just graduated from college. I went to a pharmacy event and I won a free tax consult. To me, it was like garbage. My dad did my taxes, pretty basic. I work a job, it didn't matter. Well, that free tax consult got me to opening an independent pharmacy.
Oh.
So I owned a pharmacy. Never in my dreams did I think that that would ever happen. But the tax accountant, who's actually in Darien, and their kids all went through Hinsdale South, we met, my dad said, oh, check him out, see what he says, and then I'll look over what he says. So I did that. Just meeting with him, talking to him, he's like, I have a friend, one of his clients, who wanted to open another pharmacy and was looking for somebody. That was a big chance for me to take, because I would have to leave my decent paying job to do something else.
Mm-hmm.
So anyways, it happened. I ended up opening an independent. Opening a business is also tricky because you don't have an income when you first open a new business, right? It takes time. So I still had to keep my original job, and then opened a pharmacy.
How did it look like opening a business? Like, did you take business classes in college, and did that help you?
So no, I did not take any business classes, so zero. But this man who we were working with, so it was me and another friend partnered with this other guy, a pharmacist, who had already opened many pharmacies. So he knew a lot, and I will tell you what really helped was because I worked at Dominic's and Kmart and Arbor, I had a good foundation because big businesses have to do things a certain way. When you're a small business, it's harder to do everything you're supposed to, right? Because you have very limited people. Mm-hmm. But when you work for a huge company like Walgreens or Target or just any company, if you're interested in engineering or whatever company it is, they have to follow all the rules because they're big. That's what they do. So that really helped because I knew what certain requirements were outside of the fact that pharmacy law is a thing. So you have to know the laws in relation to the area you're working. So yes.
How were you able to dedicate time and also like being a mother and then also owning a business? Like, is that?
So it was, when I think about it, I don't know how I did it. And I did, so I'll get to that in just a second because I haven't talked about the second business I opened while working at both pharmacies. So let me take your question and then I'll go.
How did you get the tax counsel?
So I'm a pharmacist, right? So and at the time now, I didn't have kids, I was just married. So I participated in the pharmacy organizations. So there was one particular organization, and I don't know if they gave out tickets or a raffle or something, and there were all these prizes, really cool prizes, and I got a tax counsel. You know, so so that was just a raffle. So your opportunities in life can come from anywhere. Okay, so at the very same time that the independent pharmacy was kind of starting to happen, my husband, and one of our friends, the three of us, decided to be a pharmacy technician. So we're pharmacists, and we hire technicians to work with us, right? There was no educational requirement to be a pharmacy technician. But this is back 25 years ago. Things have changed now. So we decided, I loved teaching, so I used to teach at pharmacy school, like not full programs, I would just teach a lecture or two if a professor was willing to have me teach for them, okay? So we decided, let's make a program to train pharmacy technicians. There was like a 2-year program, but pharmacy techs don't get paid that much to invest 2 years of education in. So we came up with a program. So we had to write a full class to teach pharmacy technician, and we wanted our techs to be trained well so that when they work, they're knowledgeable. So we started that at College of DuPage, Joliet Junior College, Oakton Community College, and then we went out. We went to different states. So all 3 of these things, I had to work full-time still at Dominic's and Kmart. I didn't do them at the same time. And then we had the independent pharmacy, but the 2 partners were married to pharmacists, so there were 4 of us sharing the hours at the pharmacy. And then eventually, my partner had kids and I had kids.
Oh my God.
And it became rough, you know, so the whole point of me telling you this stuff is that there are opportunities. You don't know what will transform. Some may die out and do nothing, okay? But you've experienced it, you learn from it. And that's what's so important, okay? You know, at one point, the pharmacy, we thought we were gonna close it down because business was really bad, and at some point, we couldn't keep infusing money. Even with the healthcare training company, the same thing, actually. Okay, so that was that Broadway Avenue Pharmacy. It's still in existence. We sold it to my partner, and he continued running it, and it's still there today. MK Education was just me and my husband, and that also is actually no longer in business. But College of DuPage and all these colleges in the area still run pharmacy tech. Now, over 20 years, we expanded. So we started doing veterinary assistant, dental assisting. There was a laser hair removal class. We did all kinds of different healthcare training programs. So a lot of them are still at College of DuPage, and those are great programs for you to take. They're just not through our company anymore. Yes?
Do you still sometimes like go to the College of DuPage to like speak to the students and stuff?
I do not. That I could only do so. So I used to teach the class, and at some point the business became bigger and we got more programs, and then I had to do, you know, you have to hire people, fire people, you have to do HR, which is human resources, right? So then just became a lot. So I did oftentimes, after school, when the kids had to do things, it was dedicated to the kids. And then as soon as they'd go to sleep, which they'd never go to sleep at 9, was my time to start working again. So I would be up till 2 or 3 in the morning.
Wow,
And so it was tough to manage, but you can do it if you are passionate about it and excited about it. After 20, 25 years, I got divorced. That was not, I went from retail pharmacy to something totally different, and divorce was not in the picture. So that changed my life again. So what was I gonna do? I had not worked in a pharmacy for over 7 years. If you go into healthcare, I wanna tell you right now, don't take huge gaps in your profession, because a lot changes, right? There's hundreds of drugs that come out in a year. If you take a gap of 7 years, and of course I wasn't going to study up on every single drug, so you lose a lot of knowledge. So I'm like, what am I gonna do? I'm divorced and I need to find a job, because I was a business owner. Now I wasn't. So I also didn't know what kind of jobs to apply for, because I wasn't confident in my pharmacy skills anymore, So I looked for a month and I got bored. I'm not one to sit at home. And I applied to an accounting temp agency called Account Temps. There are temporary agencies which will hire. So when I was in high school and college, I worked at temp agencies as secretaries. Back in the day, people did filing, so sometimes I did filing. I did office work. But they have temp agencies to move furniture or all kinds of different things. So this was an accounting temp agency, because I did a lot of accounting being a business owner. I worked there for 6 months and the pandemic hit and we had to work from home. And I'm like, okay, I need to get back into something. I can't work at, this was not making that much money. So I couldn't even pay the monthly, rent or anything. So I'm like, it's time to start looking for a job. So I was working at Zentress Wireless, nothing to do with healthcare. So then United Pharmacy Staffing, it's a pharmacy staffing company, a temp agency for pharmacy. So I reached out to them and I said, I need a job. I can't do retail because I don't feel confident. So the owner called me one day. He had never met me. We've only been talking on the phone. And he says, I have a job for 6 hours a week. And I don't know who's gonna work for 6 hours a week. And I said, I'll do it. So it was 3 hours one day, 3 hours another day at a location in Orland Park, a half an hour away. 2 weeks later, they said, we'd like to hire you. And I said, this was working with medications that I had never heard of or seen. And I said, okay, well, I'll do it, but it's gonna take me some time. I have to learn what I'm doing, okay? And no training, there was no other pharmacist to train me to say, here's what, I didn't know about the disease state. So how many here have heard of hemophilia? Oh, wow. Okay.
How many? Okay. Oh, wow.
5. Yeah. Wow, okay. So what do you know about it? Would a couple of you like to just kind of tell me? Or it's a bleeding disorder? Okay. So when you think about hemophilia, this is all I knew at least, is you get a cut and it doesn't stop bleeding. And that's it. That's all I knew about hemophilia. So maybe you guys know a little bit more. So hemophilia is, so when you get a cut, I don't have this memorized in case you think I do. When you get a cut and it won't bleed, it's because when you get a cut, a signal goes to your brain that says, hey, there's a cut, we need to send all our clotting factors and make a clot. And that's that whole thing there is all this stuff that happens so that you stop bleeding. Well, in hemophilia, something is missing. A factor is what they're called. A factor is missing. And because of that, it never makes it to the clot formation. And so these patients have to inject themselves with clotting factor, okay? Bleeds can happen in places you cannot see. So If you look at this, this is somebody's knee, and you see the one on the left has a bleed. So you don't see any blood, right? So bleeds, you don't have to see them, but they can happen. So even when you go poop, you break blood vessels in your abdomen, and you break blood vessels. So you break blood vessels all the time. You bump your arm here, you might have broken a blood vessel. But you know, our body just takes care of it, and it's fine. But if it doesn't, then it can become bad. So this is one of the medications a patient would take. And so we'll just show it up here. So there's a vial of medicine. These people have to find a vein and inject their medicine. So it might be, they could be taking medicine every few days. It could be once a week. And then there's new treatments out there that are less often. Or there are some where you don't have to find a vein now. But this is all technology that has gotten better and better for people.
Like, set up like a feeding tube and they put it like in your stomach, and they
Nope.
put okay.
You see that needle?
Mm.
So this is called the butterfly needle. When you guys go to the doctor's office and they take blood from you, they take that needle and they look for a vein. They put a tourniquet around your arm and they find the vein, and so these patients are literally injecting themselves. Now if they can't find their own vein and they need help, maybe a family member helps them. Once in a while they have to go to the doctor, or, you know, yes.
Couldn't they just do infusions and they don't have to do that as frequently?
Way back in the day, before these medications came out, people would get a bleed, right? So their knee is really swollen. It's painful. They're damaging their knees. After they get the bleed, they'd go to the hospital or the ER, and they would have to do like an 8-hour infusion. Yeah. Now these are way quicker. These are just a couple minutes. But could you imagine going to a clinic to get the infusion 2 or 3 times a week? It's so much easier if you can just do it at home. So when they're kids, they go to camps and they learn how to find their vein. I mean, you guys are in high school now. Imagine being in 5th grade or 4th grade and having to find your vein. Parents, of course, are gonna help, but it's really, the kids need to learn, because eventually it's gonna be their job. So sometimes we have to think about how grateful we need to be for what we have, and then also be respectful of others, because you don't know what people are going through. And there's no sign on people with hemophilia that says, hey, I have to inject myself every few days. You know, so we should always just be kind to each other, because you just don't know what people are going through. And somebody could have a bad day. Just let it go, because again, maybe they're going through a lot of rough stuff. When when they get their bleeds, they're in a lot of pain. So, yeah, any other questions? Yes?
How common is hemophilia?
So it is a rare disease. So this is a 250 unit box up there, which is not usually, no adult takes that less. They take a much higher dose. That box right there probably costs $300 or $400. Yeah, so it's a rare disease, so that's why the cost of the drug is so high. Because for a drug company, you have to think about, if I'm gonna spend, if I'm the drug company, do I want to spend tens of millions of dollars researching for a disease that hardly anyone has? So I think it's less than 200,000 people in the US. So you kind of have to think about it. So that's why the medicine is expensive, because it's a rare disease. Yes.
What was the piece that's next to the butterfly?
So, okay, so here's what they do. This is the medicine vial, the Covaltry. They pop that white cap off and they use an alcohol wipe and wipe the top, as you would with any injectable medicine vial. Then they remove there's a little covering here. They remove the bottom part and they take this and attach it to the top of the vial. We don't want anyone to poke themselves. I mean, obviously this has a needle, but we're gonna take that, put it on the top there, and then this is the syringe and the plunger that goes on top of it. And so they're gonna attach this to the vial and then the syringe to the top of this. Because that's a powder. And this has a liquid in it. And so they're gonna push it in there to mix the powder and the liquid and then pull it out, withdraw it, and attach it to here and inject it into their vein. I do have a box there. I can leave it open at the end so you guys can take a look at it. Thank you.
There's another question
Hey,
here.
why isn't the powder already in the liquid, like beforehand?
Because, so everything, okay, you know what, this is where this comes up. This has an antibiotic in it. It's supposed to be clear and white, like water, it's colorless. But it has a color, a really dark color. So some medications are not stable. So there's a lot of chemistry. If you were to work at a drug company or a manufacturing company, there's a lot of different things that go into medicine. Did I answer the question? So yeah, it's unstable when it's, so it needs to do this. These medications are also refrigerated. They can be stored at room temperature for a shorter amount of time. But yeah, so there's different things like that. But that was a really good question. And some medications do come in a liquid because they're stable that way. So this one, if you mix it up, it's only good for 3 hours. And if that one dose is $300 or $400, you know, you want to make sure you can use it. But then if you can't find your vein at that point, now what do? You've got time is limited. So yes.
Like if you're dehydrated, your veins could like collapse too, right? So
That's right. Yes. So when these kids go to camp and when people, you know, and hemophilia is not the only disease state where you have to inject yourself, right? There's other things. So there are tricks. You need to be hydrated. So sometimes applying warm compresses. Certain foods, I believe, help. So yeah, so there's a lot involved in that. If your veins, yeah. Some people have rolling veins. So, you know, they tell me they have a really hard time finding a vein, and so somebody helps, or, you know, they go to a clinic or something. So these are just some of the other supplies. They need a Band-Aid, gauze, alcohol wipes. Does anyone know what this is?
Isn't it for like
Nothing disposal.
Yes, it's called a sharps container, and it's to put needles in. You guys have ever noticed them in bathrooms? Why are people injecting themselves in bathrooms? Diabetes. They do a sub-Q under the skin, so they may grab a chunk of their skin and they'll do an injection. And diabetes injections, some of them, you know, you have to, some of them do a little more often than just once a day, so you can't do it at home and be done for the rest of the day. It just depends on what your treatment is. But yeah, so certain migraine medications, some come in a pen where you just inject and then you just have to throw it away. So yeah, so that's why some public places have a sharps container. And then that's a tourniquet, so if you've ever given blood, they just tighten it up so that they can find your vein. Okay, so outside of working in your profession, there's a lot of other things you can do, which I never thought about or knew or considered, you know, outside of pharmacy organizations. So, life takes you on its journey and different things happen. So, I have 2 boys who graduated from Hinsdale South and they were in Boy Scouts. Cub Scouts and then Boy Scouts. I played an active role in both Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts. And I actually continued it through Boy Scouts until just this past summer. By joining organizations, you meet incredible people. So I have friends from 10 or 15 years ago that are still close friends of mine, all because of my kids and their friends and Boy Scouts. Okay, then I joined a yoga group, and I guess I'm not one to sit back. And so in the yoga group, I wanted there to be more community, because usually when you go to a workout class, you work out, and you leave. You know, unless you went with a friend, that's fine, you 2 talk and you leave. So we're more of a community. We do things together. We have lunch together when we have a morning yoga class. So anyways, I ended up getting on the committee for this, and just have met incredible people who have helped me along my journey. Rotary has been a huge thing for me too. It's a service organization. Anyone here heard of Rotary? Okay, well that's how I met Dr. Mota. So, yeah, so I'm currently the president of the club, and I was the president of the club during the pandemic. So these are opportunities to meet all kinds of people. So Rotary is a service organization that is all over the world. So when I travel and go somewhere, I check out if I can make it to a Rotary Club meeting. And it's like a whole nother family. So for me, Boy Scouts, yoga, and Rotary are families to me, because you just get to know people and meet people, and they help you on your journey. In Rotary, I met a bunch of authors, a couple from the club Rotary's in different cities, so I'm part of the Darien Rotary Club. We are a part of the Darien Rotary Club, but there are clubs all over the place. So there's 2 authors in the club that we're a part of, which then got me to thinking, I want to write a book. And so that was the next thing I did. So last month, I published this book. And how I never thought I'd write a book, but just having these people that I knew write a book was like, oh, okay, maybe I should think about it. So why did I write a book? Ever since my kids were little, I put little notes in their lunch boxes, okay? You know, I might put a funny fact or something like you eat this many spiders in your lifetime or whatever I found online. Eventually, and then I would leave little notes. You guys can do this too, you know, write a little note for your parents and throw it in their top drawer of the bathroom cabinet, or in between some plates. I would do that for my sister, or in the refrigerator, a random place. I left a note for someone who texted me 2 years later to say, I moved offices, and whoever moved the stuff must have found a little note underneath the keyboard, because you don't move the keyboard too often, and left a note, and he's like, this must have been from you. So it makes people happy. Why do something like this? There's a lot that goes on in people's lives, but you can do tiny little things to make a positive impact. Just you being you. You don't have to go and change the world, but a little bit of kindness or something fun can make an impact. So when I started working at this pharmacy at the pandemic, people are getting medications that they have to inject. That really sucks, but it's life-saving, so it's good. So I started writing notes and putting them inside those medicine boxes. And in my heart, I would just hope that they'd open their medicine and be kind of excited that they got a little note. And then we got busier, so now we put little fun facts and funnies that get printed out. But I used to handwrite them when we were slower. So anyways, I took a lot of that because I tried to always write something positive and uplifting, and I threw that in the book. So that's it's like a journal or to-do or interactive book. And so that's what came of that. So all these things evolved over time. So, okay, any questions so far? There's all kinds of places and ways you can be active. Your high school, you go to Hinsdale South. Do you know how many of you are parts of more than 2 clubs at the school? Awesome, and that's how it should be. You go to school here, take advantage of all the exciting things that you can do. Because as you get older, your opportunities are going to change. So what you can do here may or may not be available in college. And when you go to college, absolutely take advantage of all their clubs and organizations. You may be busy studying, and that's so important. And you may be paying loads of money to go to a university because their education is good. But you're also paying money to enjoy and take part in their other programs and activities. It really means a lot. When you go to Harvard, yeah, you get a good education and all, but there's other opportunities there, and you make lifelong friends, and it's really important to enjoy that. I didn't do that in high school or college, but I pushed my boys to do it, and every student that I talked to thereafter, like, participate in things, because those experiences you don't get back again.
Beautiful.
We got one more slide.
Beautiful.
So join organizations. You guys, do you guys have LinkedIn profiles yet? Some of you, who has a LinkedIn profile? Okay, a few of you. Once you get to college, you really want a LinkedIn profile. It's a great way to figure out, you know, who's doing something similar to you. If you're an engineering student, hey, I just noticed so-and-so's on there and works as an engineer at Motorola or Granger or wherever, and that's what I'm interested in, then maybe I should talk to that person. And then when you meet people, you want to catch them on LinkedIn, because then you don't know, in 10 years from now, you might say, I want to work at ASAP Pharmacy. I wonder who works there. And you type it in your LinkedIn profile and you're like, oh, I was connected to someone a long time ago. So LinkedIn is a really good thing to connect with people, because 5 years from now, you might forget who some of your teachers were or who some of your friends were. But if you have them on LinkedIn, then you're not going to forget. Business cards are great. When someone hands you a business card, keep it. Throw it in a Ziploc bag. 10 years later, if you decide to flip through them, you might run into a business card for a company or a person that you think you should connect with again. So, any questions there? All right. And then be you. Be unique. I handed out bubbles. That bubbles thing started at the pandemic. They kept talking about depression on TV because people were stuck at home. I had a little pack of bubbles. I kind of randomly handed it out. Some people look at me and think I'm crazy. And some adults will be like, oh, I'll give it to my kids. And I'm like, you know, bubbles are fun for adults too. They're good for everybody.
Yes.
They're a stress reliever.
Yes.
And what happens when someone blows bubbles?
Joy.
People smile. Yeah.
Yes.
So bubbles are great. And then eventually I started buying them on Amazon because they were getting a little expensive, and they're so cheap. So, you know, it's something so tiny can produce a group of smiles is worth it.
Yeah.
So be you. You know, whatever's in you, put it out there. Don't be shy. Be kind.
I love this. Beautiful. Beautiful.
Thank you.